Okay, yeah, I'm Nate. I'm Nate Hofford. I'm a biologist at a grad student at the University of Alabama, and I study grass. So my project largely is studying how Johnson grass, which is like an invasive species in the United States, changes genetically and physically across like its entire invasive distribution, kind of across the US. So it's this invasive grass that occupies both like natural and agricultural areas, and it grows in like all these different climates, and those climates impact the genetics of the system and like how it looks in like a lot of different ways. And so my project specifically is looking at how different environmental characteristics affect a specific genetic component of Johnson grass and plants at large called jumping genes or transposable elements. And so these are like genes that can change position within the genome. And so I'm looking at how those different environmental components affect the composition and the amount and the diversity of those different types of jumping genes in Johnson grass. Man, what makes me want to do that? Man, that's hard because it's like, what makes me not want to do that? There's like nothing almost. I feel like pretty lucky that it's like part of my research to just like travel around looking at the same organism. I'll get to go out there to a place that I've probably never been before. Like all these like random small towns, like I've never been to like Goldtown, West Virginia, or like Modesto, California. Like I've never been to these places. These are random towns, and you're traveling to a place that you've never been, which is just exciting. But also you're doing it with the purpose of studying something that is from a place that you've spent a lot of time. Like I spend all my time in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, like doing this research, and now I get to go to like 2,400 miles away and look at Johnson grass under completely different environmental conditions in a completely different setting and collect it. And like I get to use a shovel constantly. Like that's so fun. Like I just go into fields and dig up plants. Like you see all these other different plants too, and bugs and like snakes and stuff, and then you bring it back and it's this incredibly valuable, useful scientific resource. It's exciting to have a purpose and to have some scientific discovery behind it too. Like before, like I just started driving around constantly and like looking for Johnson grass. I didn't like, okay, in all biology classes you hear about all these like naturalists or whatever that are going around on boats or in the jungle or whatever and taking all these field notes and collecting specimens and stuff like that. And if you're a plant person, like you hear about herbarium collectors that are constantly out and collecting stuff. It's just like a very like abstract thing that old scientists did. And now what happens is you work in a lab on it and you work on the computer and you generate all these analyses and you publish in a journal. And that's all really important and that's good. But the process of driving around and just seeing the people and the land makes you just feel more like connected to it, and you want to do science and you want to communicate it in a way that everyone all across the board can like get at and access. It's very stimulating both from a research perspective, but also more of like this is like how I want to think about my science perspective. With some species, you like know it's gonna be in a place and you call ahead and you like get a permit or whatever to collect it from a place. But with like Johnson grass, a lot of collecting is just like you're driving vaguely between two places on like some back roads, and then you just like see it in a field and you stop and collect there. So like I'm in like a lot of people's just like fields all the time, just like digging up plants, and people have like pretty variable responses to that. Some people are like very upset about that and some people are really cool about it. But the main way that I want to make my research like accessible to people is by collaborating with them on it in a way, and like exchanging information about like what I'm studying about this and like what information they want to provide about that. Most people are really, really excited to talk to me about the like local history of the area. Like I was in West Virginia one time and I was in some random back roads near Goldtown, and I like pull into this field and I'm like pulling Johnson grass from it or whatever, and this guy like pulls up on a tractor and gets off and just like he's like, yeah, like my son owns this field and I own the field next to it, and you know, it used to be covered in Johnson grass because, as you know, they used to They used to grow it for hay, because like basically a lot of these places, they used to plant it intentionally as just like a forage crop to like turn into hay to feed to whatever animals, because it actually has like a bunch of protein in it, and it's rhizomatic, so it grows back every year. It's like perennial, and so it's like a very cheap and efficient like forage crop. But the problem is, if it gets like cold stressed or drought stressed at all, it starts producing all these like toxins, so it'll kill animals. People are like, oh wait, no, we can't plant this, actually it doesn't work. People are just so like open about the land. You can just always get a really good sense of like how like important this like area is to them. And I like really like hearing about that. It makes it like more like personable, because like we're just two like random people that are engaging about some like grass that I'm digging up in their field. Like his name was Richard. I would never have talked to Richard before in any other situation. And we're talking about like a plant that I get to study for my research. So it's really fun. I like talking to people about that kind of stuff. Like one of the best parts of the project is I get to do that everywhere. Like we did that in California with people, we did that in Arizona, in Virginia, and Ohio, and Missouri, and Texas. You get to like meet a lot of people in addition to seeing how one unifying thing changes. It's like, this is gonna sound stupid and cliche, but you see like all the different people and like how they all change, and also just how like the actual organism, the focal like plant changes too. It's cool. I just feel more like observant of it. Like I just feel more like I like want to look at it more. Like I just want to like see, I want to see how it like changes way more. And I just like want to be in it on like a regular basis. I think like a lot of people engage with like nature and like little snapshots. You'll just like go on a hike for a little while, and like that's cool, and like that's just absolutely great. But the scientist in me right now wants to be in it for like as long as the plants are, which is like constantly and like all the time, because you notice so much more just by like being out in it, just by actually digging up the Johnson grass and like feeling its roots every single time you dig it up, and looking at the leaves and looking around in the environment where it's growing. I think that has a lot of potential to create interesting questions, and the opportunity is there to observe completely different interactions and different things. It's like made me want to make that a really, really big part of like my science, like what I want to do, because after this I like now know that I need to go do something where I'm just outside and observing like a lot.